So in this segment, we're going to be discussing, is Boris Johnson the real reason for a lack of trust in politics? I personally don't. I don't just blame him, but we're going to have a listen to this clip.
You back Boris Johnson. Do you think he's responsible for some of the breakdown in the trust that we've seen?
I think, sadly, what has happened with politics is that it has become clickbait. And actually,
the question is Boris Johnson, though. Do you think he bears some responsibility?
I think absolutely. You know, any senior politician, any politician bears some responsibility towards that. But the reality is what goes on in Parliament. People switch on PMQs, and I have to say, I thought some of the nonsense that went on in PMQs yesterday, for instance, was shameful.
Talk about Rayner.
And I'm put off by that, and I'm doing the job. But that isn't what happens. PMQs is almost the pantomime of actually what goes on, and it's much more what we do. What we do is legislate, and we look into the minutiae, and we talk about the detail.
I don't know, Dog. When you did the Northern Ireland Protocol, David Davis saying we've looked under every rock, and then once the legislation was passed, it's like, I can't believe the legislation does this. So I don't think you guys look at the minutiae of details, I'll be honest.
And whenever I'm doing that, I'm thinking about what have my constituents said? What do they want?
Well, you completely dodged the question, really. Let's go back to that.
Clickbait. What has happened with politics is that it has become clickbait.
So the problem with politics isn't that these guys lied about Partygate, lied about Pincher, amongst other things. It's clickbait.
And actually,
the question is Boris Johnson, though. Do you think he bears some responsibility?
I think absolutely. You know, any senior politician, any politician bears some responsibility towards that. But the reality is what goes on in Parliament. People switch on PMQs, and I have to say.
Yeah, no, this is a really poor answer. David Dimbleby, he has the Faultlines podcast. I don't know if it's still going on. He talks about the Iraq War being one of the main kind of the fault lines, I guess, kind of trust in politics. He talks about talking to prime ministers, politicians, spies, and weapons inspectors. He asked how and why we came to invade Iraq, and as we experience an era of lies and mistrust, did the events of 17 years ago set the stage for the world we live in now? And that's one of the reasons why I think he set up the podcast. What was because of the idea that it was the Iraq War that set it off, kind of the real mistrust in politics. I don't know if I think it goes back further than that, I'll be honest. I'm not sure how far back. I guess you could put some of the responsibility on Thatcher. Maybe the idea of when they pushed things like privatisation, promising service will be better. That was a massive lie. I don't know. I think Tony Blair does. Tony Blair should get some of the blame for the illegal war where Saddam didn't have weapons of mass destruction, and they kept moving the goalposts from he did 9/11 to he's just a really bad guy. It's like, what? Like, are we going to invade most of the Middle East then because it's full of dictators and stuff? It doesn't make any sense. The whole reasoning behind it. I think Boris Johnson was particularly bad when it came to scandals, though. The Pincher one was really bad. The lies around Pincher got debunked, some of them within like a few hours of ministers making statements. The Partygate stuff, that was really bad as well. The Brexit stuff was really bad. I think that wasn't just Boris Johnson, that was a lot of them. You could argue maybe Tony Blair's the one that broke trust in politics. The Brexiteers broke trust in politics. The Tories broke trust in politics as well. David Cameron pushing austerity. But I think if you look at kind of which ones do I think did the most damage, I think it was probably Boris Johnson, because I think he was the most public face of it, I'll be honest. But if you did want to blame the Brexiteers, if you did want to blame Tony Blair, if you did want to blame the 2010 Conservative Party, if you did want to blame Boris Johnson, I wouldn't blame you for either of those four picks, to be honest. And if you did have any more picks, I'd be interested in which ones you would pick out in the comments below. But I can tell you now, it wouldn't be an easy conversation to have, given the scale of the problems we face when it comes to trust in politics right now. I guess you could. Well, I don't think saying Starmer's the one that broke trust in politics would make sense, because a lot of the people wouldn't even know what his leadership pledges were at the time. So I guess that would be an unfair accusation to levy at him. But it's not good, guys. The levels of distrust in politics is tremendous. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.